Well, let's move on to Super Rugby then and the Highlanders, and we'll skip right to the moment, probably one of the best moments for you down there. 2015, winning the Super Rugby Championship, coming on, slotting that dropper. You must have felt like Stephen Donald.
Yeah, like I didn't get much game time that year because Lima decided to have an unreal season and become an All Black, and I think he got Super Rugby Player of the Year or something crazy like that. So it was nice of Stops to let me on the field for a little bit there. I think his little hamstring or his little calf or something was battling. So to get 10 minutes, or it felt like a little bit longer. I'd like to say it was half a game, but it definitely wasn't. There to get on, it was like a sort of a childhood dream come true. You know, I grew up watching, you know, Jonah and Cully and all those guys in Wellington and then the Crusaders and everything. So to be up playing on their home turf against the Canes, my old team the year before, that obviously didn't go so well, but to go back there and play against a few mates and get out there and just be a part of it. Like my mum and that were up there, my brother went up to watch, and so it was just a special occasion. Like even if I didn't get on, I would have, you know, appreciated it. But to get out there and get a drop goal, even though I had sort of 3 goes at it before I hit one off my foot, yeah, it was sort of cool to play a part in it. But it was the boys out there that got the result. I think, you know, the drop goal was probably just trying to save the boys' legs. To be fair, they're all pretty tired. So yeah, just one of those things that goes with rugby.
Being at the Highlanders and knowing the student culture in Dunedin, that celebration must have gone on for a few weeks as well.
Yeah, it was sort of every day because it was Rio week. So Dunedin was going off as it was, and then obviously to add the Super Rugby title to a place that hadn't had a party since Tony Brown's that didn't eventuate. And you know, the whole city was just going ballistic, and I think that's what was cool about it. You know, like Crusaders, they win nearly every year. Like I'm sure, like obviously the trophy means a lot to them every year, but the franchise and that's had that much success that it just sort of becomes part of who they are. But for the Highlanders to win it after so many years, there was people like grown men just crying. You'd see people on the street that, you know, you couldn't wipe the smiles off their faces or anything like that. So you sort of appreciated what we just sort of achieved as a group and how it sort of, you know, affected a city in a positive way. And when we got off the plane, I remember it was the Sunday morning, and we looked up and there was just people everywhere upstairs, and we're like, oh, that just must be the top tier. And then we walked in and there was just thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the airport. And if anyone knows Dunedin, like it's not a short trip to the airport, like it's a half an hour trip that you wouldn't do it at the drop of a hat. So to see all those people, like to get to the bus, it took us hours to get out there. It was just, you know, pretty humbling to, you know, see people there like that and congratulating us. And the city of Dunedin sort of celebrated it on I think it was a Monday or Tuesday. We had a big city sort of get together, and it was just chocker. The Octagon was chocker, and all the businesses stopped, and everyone was out on the streets, and there was just nowhere to stand. And we were pretty lucky to even get into the rotunda in the middle of the Octagon there because it was just so packed. So it just went all week, and then yeah, like it was just one of those things that you wake up each day and you sort of pinch yourself because it was just a special time. The only negative thing was I live with Joey Wheeler, so I had to put up with Joey Wheeler. Yeah, how's it a negative? Obviously, you have to deal with him most weeks at work, but when you live with him, you just can't get away from him. You know, it's like the only good thing was we had Courts. She kept the house in line. She was an amazing girl. But yeah, Joey, he's just a whole different man, and tough work. Like I go to training, have to deal with him there. Go to promos, have to deal with him. I just couldn't escape him. And the thing is Joey needs me. Like that's the thing. Like what I've realised over the years is if Joey's had no airtime or anything, he'll do something to me to boost his star. And I think he sort of found his niche in that whenever he needed a helping boost, he'd come and take the piss out of me.
I know that he's done his fair share of pranks. Did you ever manage to prank him?
Not successfully, no. I tried, but everyone was always on Joey's side because I guess, you know, I was a bit of a class clown at the Landers, so any chance that the boys got to stitch me up, they'd sort of buy in behind my back and throw me under the bus. So all I wanted to do, like I pitched it to the boys all the time, was like, let's just get Joey. But no one was prepared. No one was prepared to get Joey because they were scared that Joey would get them. So I'd always put myself out on the limb, and I'd be a sitting duck by the time it came around to Joey picking me off. But I think that sort of, you know, I met Joey at Tasman, and it's sort of been just a friendship that's sort of always been based on a bit of humour and stuff. And I think that's what, you know, get the best out of each other. And without that, I think it would have been pretty boring times without having that bit of humour, you know. It sort of breaks up the trainings and breaks up the seriousness of rugby, I guess. There's the one time Joey's probably his real claim to fame, I guess. There's always been little pot shots he's taken at me, but the one time I did try stitch him up on national television, backfired on me quite dramatically. So obviously living with Joey, I moved out of the nest the next year, and I was single at the time in Dunedin. As you know, it's a great student city. And Joey decided to play on the fact that he had a beautiful girl, I guess, a good-looking girl from Blenheim. And him and Sam Casey potted a bit of a ploy to stitch me up. And so Joey obviously probably offered this girl maybe some KFC vouchers, or he's got that much cash, he probably paid her out of his back pocket. But anyway, he got her to message me and set up a date at Lone Star. And me being me, I was pretty naive. I was like, far out. Like, I don't really want to go to Lone Star because I know the boys eat there. And it was our day off. So I was like, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be like Tom Franklin or someone there just chipping away on a little like rib special or something like that. So I was like, but I get 50% off there. So I was like, nah, I'll do it. I'll go 50% off. Cheap date. So I was like, I'll go along. And just bearing in mind, so before this eventuated, like I had this inkling in my stomach that it was a setup. Like I told Greg Pleasance-Tate that the day of the date I was not going. I was like, it's Joe Wheeler written all over it. And I said this word for word, and no one believes me because they just think I am trying to cover up. But I said to Tatey, I was like, look, I'm not going on this date. And he convinced me to go on this date. And then I live with Gareth Evans, and he's like, oh, you're going to give this girl a hug? I was like, oh, mate, I've never met her. I'm not going to hug her. Like, I've got no confidence at the best of times. I'm not going to hug her. He's like, nah, you have to hug her. I was like, oh, okay. So when first thing I do is give her a hug, and it's the first thing that they put on the camera. So they'd all been working. So this whole week I've been talking about this date pretty much, and all the boys knew about it because they were in on it. And they just keep chipping away on my ear, chipping away and convincing me to go to this date. So by the end of the week, it sort of just like culminated in the fact that if I chickened out, the boys are going to give me a bit of stick. So anyway, went on this date. I knew the bar owner, so he had set up the camera from the security camera and aimed it at the table. And sure enough, Joey gets it on YouTube, and Joey walks in on bloody the end of the date with a camera and a mic, and Sam Casey's there with his big smile, and I'm left there pretty disheartened, more gutted that Joey got me on a prank rather than the date. And yeah, I think, and the good thing, I just want to get this out there because I was pretty good about it. The Highlanders said, we want to put this on YouTube. And I was like, the only way I'll do it is if you give me a heap of KFC. And so I got two 200-piece KFC like corporate packs. And I got my body, my height and space. So I think it was maybe 8 24 packs. And the reason I did this was because it was coming up to India do photo. So I went in the morning, picked up all the KFC to take to the boys that were hungover at the team photo, gave them the food, gave them the beers, and they stitched me up, but in the end I sort of gave back to them because I wanted to play the bigger man of the situation. But Joey Wheeler did well, and I had constantly copped a lot of stick from it since that day.
So you're actually not a cheap date. That's what I read into this. You're a very generous man.
No, the beers and the KFC were free, so I'm pretty cheap.
So. Well, unlucky Michelle then.
Yeah, unlucky Michelle. Yeah, she's all right though. She does all right.
I know you mentioned this a wee while back now, but the party at Tony Brown's, it never eventuated in the 90s. After you guys won in 2015, did he actually open his doors and throw one?
No, I think he's smart enough not to let us in there. And the bender at Bender's, he never let us into his house either. He's only just let us into his man cave. He's only just let us into his man cave recently, which is, it's a palace in there. He's, it's a shame he didn't let us in the early doors because it would have been a great place for day 3 or day 4.
Pretty special team and a pretty special place to be a part of, though, that Highlanders team, right? Is that like one of the most special sides you've been around, and the culture that you have down there that's just so different to every other team?
Yeah, I think like when I first arrived, like I had a conversation with Jamie Joe. There was Hayden Parker, myself and Lima, obviously talking about who's going to be playing first 5, and Jamie Joe was pretty straight to the point. The meeting lasted about 5 words. It was Lima's the starting 10. You're the reserves pretty much. And that was sort of my opening to getting down to Dunedin. But like getting down there, and like, I think the year I arrived, we had a player from every province in New Zealand, all the Mitre 10 Cup teams. And so to bring that group together, guys from Northland like DP, just all over the place. Josh Honnock, Brendan Edmonds, like guys like that, just farmers, hunters, like surfers. Like we just had a massive mix of people, and to be able to bring that group together and have us function so well, like we just had to embrace everyone's differences, where we're all from. And I think Brownie and Jamie Joe got the best out of the group just because they didn't try and really restrict that. They tried like embracing everyone's differences and how everyone went about life. And I think that's sort of what grew our group, just because we grew so tight as a group that a lot of battlers, like we had some superstars, obviously we got Nuggy and Bender, Waisaki and that, like the list goes on, but we got guys that just love getting into their work. And I think that's the nucleus of the group that probably got us the result. And then the guys that finished the tries off, like Weiss and guys like that, that was just a cherry on top. But the group we bonded with from day one of pre-season was the group that got us through to the end result.
Other than the rugby and everything that we've talked about, what makes Marty Banks tick? Like, is it travel? Is it golf? What else are you interested in?
What makes me tick? I think I do it for because my family, I guess it's pretty cliche, but like it's always been for mum. Like mum, like I said, invested a lot of time in me and grew up around my family that they invested a lot of time in me too with my sport and stuff. So just to give back to them, like I remember mum used to come and watch all the Tasman games and every Dunedin game she could get to, and dad had come up and all that sort of stuff, and all the family would turn up. So it was sort of, rugby nearly became a way of bringing the family together because everyone was sort of all over the place. Like had family that was in Spain that came back, and just family scattered around New Zealand. So they'll come back and watch a game, and it sort of just felt like it brought the family together a bit. And but yeah, like I enjoy, I guess, getting away from footy as well. Getting away and playing golf. Izzy Dag will probably tell you I'm no good, but he hasn't come back for a shot at the title yet. So
that's because he plays every day of the week, though, right?
Yeah. I'm only a battler, but I just try and talk a bit of crap and try and bluff my way through it. But yeah, I think just trying to have a decent balance between footy and life is probably the key thing. It's pretty standard across the board for most rugby players, but yeah, I guess the key thing for me would be family and friends.
So do you envision yourself going back to Reefton eventually when you retire? Going back to mum?
I don't know about going back to mum. She's probably sick of me now. I've spent a bit of time with her during the COVID break and been back from Japan, so I'm sure she appreciated it a little bit. But it's sort of crazy, you know, you go back to Japan and look after yourself and do your own washing, but then you go back to Reefton and there's this magic cycle where you just throw it on the floor at the bottom of the washing machine and it comes up folded on your bed. So I need to find a way of taking that to Japan, but I guess that's a perk of going back to mum.
I think everyone needs that in their life. They like that automatic washing machine, always having dinners cooked as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Marty. All the very best with whatever comes next. I'm sure we'll see you popping up, maybe back in New Zealand rugby as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a good yarn.